I've got a really fun idea for a build, but I feel like it needs some explaining because it's actually two builds. The inspiration behind this comes from a save that I played recently on my Twitch channel. I played through Discover University on my Twitch channel recently with these two Sims that were like complete opposites that hated each other. And the storyline was that they were ex-girlfriends who got very unfortunately randomly assigned as roommates in college. And we were kind of trying to do like an enemies to friends story and just like repair their relationship. They weren't ever gonna date again because like we established that did not work, but we could at least try to be friendly if they had to live together. One of them was named Amaya and she got a villainy degree, and the other one was named Louise and she got a fine arts degree. And right around this time, The Sims announced the Artist Studio kit and the Storybook Nursery kit, and it was kind of funny because it was like their exact vibes. We've got like goth baby on one and then artist on the other, and that kind of got me thinking, what if we tried to build two opposite houses? One that's kind of a darker color scheme and one that's a little bit more rainbow pastel. We decorate one for the villain Amaya and her new baby, and the other one for the artist Louise. And it's like the same house, but mirrored and completely opposite vibes in each. I'm not even actually playing with these Sims anymore. I don't intend to play in these houses, but they were the inspiration behind the concept. So with that being said, this is a long speed build because it's actually two speed builds. So we should probably dive right in and I'll start walking you through what I built here. The original idea was to make a duplex, like two houses that were attached to each other. But then I kind of started thinking about garages and wanting to have something along those lines, so I put a driveway in the middle, and then it kind of became two separate houses instead of two separate units. And we're building this on the 40 by 20 lot that comes in San Sequoia. I usually build community lots on this one. By default, it's empty and it's kind of right next to the rec center if you have Growing Together and you're familiar with the area. I like this one because it's very long and skinny, and because it's so wide, it really fits what we needed to do here. You'll see that we've got the two houses and they each have their own backyard. They're kind of more of a side yard than a backyard. They've got a long driveway through the middle, and they are literally the exact same house, just completely mirrors of each other. It'll start to make a little bit more sense once we start picking color scheme, because I know that right now it's looking a little bit weird, but just trust me, okay? Trust the process, we'll get there. I also originally really wanted to have a garage. Honestly, the main inspiration was just that I was so excited about the wallpaper from the Artist Studio kit that I was like, this is perfect. It's perfect for a garage. I'm gonna use it and put a garage in these houses. But then I realized they were actually quite small, and so the garage thing wasn't really gonna work, especially if I wanted to have a nursery in one of them. I was like, we can't have a bedroom in the garage, right? I mean, you could, but I don't think it fits with the whole goth baby energy of the nursery kit. It's kind of funny because I've been joking with my past few builds with these kits about how I keep making them all pastel and I should probably use the darker colors for once. And then with this build, I was like, I'm gonna do both. We're gonna have the pastel and the darker colors. But you know what? For some reason, I think I like the darker house better on this lot. And I feel like that's actually pretty abnormal for me. I usually like the lighter colors, the pastels more. But there's something about the vibes of the left house that I just think are so cool. I really enjoyed that one. I think the biggest issue that I had when I was starting the build was trying to figure out how to do the in-between, because I knew I wanted to have them very different on each side, and that's easy. But like the middle row, I didn't know what to do. I was trying to pick a fence to put in between them, and I was thinking about half walls and different things, but none of it was really working for me. I ended up using the hedge fence instead because that's kind of neutral with it being green. It's easy to put that in between them. And this is where I chose to get rid of the garage concept and then put in a foundation instead. Looking back on this, I thought that was like a way later decision, but we're only like 3 minutes into the speed build. So that was not as long standing as I thought it was. In my head, I had like a garage concept for so long. This build also took me 2 days to finish, which is not really surprising considering the fact that it's so big. The houses themselves are not big, but it is two of them, right? And I built this whole thing over on my Twitch channel. I stream every day on Twitch. My name's just lilsimsie over there. I'll link my Twitch channel down below, and I'll also link my second channel because I post all of my live streams on my second channel, More Simsie, after I'm done. And I've got a little playthrough of University, so if you want to watch that back, you totally can. It took me many streams, so I don't know. It's kind of long probably, but I'll put the playlist for you. You don't have to watch it to understand this build. Like I said, I'm not actually even playing in these houses anymore. That was purely the inspiration behind this. This is like, in my mind, those people's future, but we're not actually at that point yet. And also, you might have just seen me looking around for cars because I wanted to put cars in the front yard. I was trying to have kind of cars that matched the vibes of the two different houses. So we have like a darker gray one and then a brighter yellow one. Those are, I think the gray one is base game and the yellow one is from Get Together's debug maybe. I was actually looking on the gallery a little bit too, because this is maybe a pro tip. If you're looking for things out of debug that are hard to find, you can search on the gallery for like debug cars and you'll find a lot of them. But the ones that I was looking at, because I was hoping to find a pink one, to be honest, and there are pink ones on the gallery, but those are like CC recolors. They're not actually pink if you download them, and I think because they're debug, it's not counting as custom content on the gallery, so it's kind of confusing. But if you saw me place those, I was like, oh, pink, and then it wasn't pink. I was pretty sure there were no pink ones in the game, but I wanted to check, and I was unfortunately correct. Now I'm kind of going through and picking out wallpaper and stuff. I really wanted to have some pretty shingles, so I was using the cats and dogs shingles because they come in gray and they also come in white. I know some people in my Twitch chat were like, ooh, it's too monochrome, it's too dark with the left side house especially, because I use like a really dark wallpaper with the dark windows, but I feel like it kind of works. Specifically next to the lighter house, it's kind of fun how stark the contrast is. So there's little to no contrast on the house itself, but on the lot there is, and that makes it okay. I was also using a lot of growing together windows and doors. It kind of has that sort of like craftsman vibe to it, and I gave them each like opposite planter boxes. I mean, I was having a blast picking out the different opposites to use for them. And then the floor plan came together pretty well too. It just took me a second to figure out how exactly I wanted to do it. So these are each 2-bedroom houses. Obviously the left side house has a nursery in it because it's supposed to be for the Storybook Nursery kit. And the other side uses a 2nd bedroom as an art studio instead. And for a time there, I was thinking about trying to fit in a basement. I really wanted to make it work, but I didn't like how the basement stairs were fitting. I felt like it kind of interrupted the space too much, so I settled for no basement instead. I also managed to fit 2 bathrooms in each of them, and sometimes when I'm doing stuff like that in these smaller houses, I think maybe I should have only had 1 bathroom. Like, is the 2nd bathroom a waste of space maybe? But it is nice to have the 2 of them. The primary bedroom gets an ensuite in this case, and I'm pretty sure in the brighter colored house, I turned the 2nd bathroom into a laundry room instead, because just 1 sim lived there. And right now we're placing some filler furniture. This was me trying to figure out the floor plan. I was just putting in some random furnishings so that I could kind of visualize how it was gonna look a little bit better. Whenever I do this, I always feel like the house looks so ridiculous. So I'm like placing furniture in using the most random colors. This is less offensive, this color scheme. Sometimes I'll use like the backyard stuff rug with the polka dots and it looks really wacky, but it just helps me to kind of see the space a bit better. So I put all of that as a start and then I delete it and put real furniture back afterward. That's kind of a pro tip too, to be honest, is to place all of those things down, because I feel like, especially with rug placement, it just kind of helps me to see the scale of the house a little bit better. Because when you're looking at it just as a big empty space, it's really hard to imagine how stuff will fit in there. I obviously mirrored the same thing on the other side. And the only weird part to me is the closet in the primary bedroom. So I turned the chimney into like kind of a weird L-shaped closet space just because that made the room less long and skinny, and it made like a flat wall for us to put the kitchen on. But it does become kind of strange. I'm pretty sure I made at least one of those closets into like a cat room. It has like a litter box and some storage. But also I think realistically it's nice to have a closet in the house because in real life they would have them. I just don't really ever put fake closets in my builds. I don't see much use for them. It kind of feels like a waste of space, and therefore it feels like a waste of space in here too. But I was trying to make it look a little bit more interesting. But I think that's pretty much the outside color scheme and the floor plan done. You can kind of see they're looking a little bit more like houses, and you can also tell the vibes of the opposite thing that we're going for. And this is where I was really trying to start making them look a little bit more personalized by putting in little things on the porches and doing the landscaping. While we're doing this, I think maybe now's a good time for some life updates. I tend to use these speed builds that way. I just kind of yap while we're watching these together. I'll start with the fun life update first, because if any of you watch my videos with closed captions on, my friend Hope does those captions every day. She's from New York, and this weekend, her and her girlfriend are coming to visit me in Orlando. I'm really excited. We're gonna go to the Charlie and Troye Sivan concert, which actually is today when you're seeing this. It's just fun when your long distance friends come over, and obviously this one you kind of know about, sort of. If you've ever watched the videos with captions, it's like new lore unlocked. And the less fun news news, but I guess it's good news because I have an answer. I got diagnosed with endometriosis this week. So it's not like good news, but it is very relieving to me because I've been trying to figure out what's wrong with me for a very, very, very long time. I've had a lot of bad experiences with doctors trying to figure it out. Like, it's been a process for a long time, which I think happens to pretty much everybody who deals with stuff like that, which is horrible, but is an unfortunate truth. I don't want to get into like the bad experiences part too much because I might start crying, but anyway, I had a good experience this time because I got an answer. This might sound really weird, but for like so long, I had like a twofold kind of anxiety about this, where I was anxious that I knew something was wrong with me and nobody was figuring it out. And I was like, what if it's really bad and it's impossible for me to get an answer because nobody is taking me seriously and it's just getting worse and I can't help it because they won't help me. So I was anxious about like the possibility of something really bad being wrong. And then I was also anxious, like, what if I'm making it up? That's probably not the right word, but I think I was worried that it was maybe not as bad as I was making it out to be, and like maybe it's just normal and I'm a baby and for some reason I'm overreacting to this pain that I'm having, which obviously is not true, but that was like an underlying anxiety that I was having about it. So to finally understand why it's happening and also to know that I'm not overreacting has been a big deal for me. Endometriosis is basically when the tissue that's supposed to line your uterus grows outside of your uterus. So it can cause people that have it a lot of problems. Typically it can cause you a lot of pain. I have always had what I would describe as really horrible periods, and well, there you go. That'll be why. So anyway, I won't get too into that too much, but basically that's my big life update, is that I have endometriosis. When I talked about this on my Twitch stream, a lot of people in my chat were like, oh my God, I have the same thing and I had the exact same problem where it was basically impossible to get answers for so long because nobody listens and nobody takes it seriously. And I'm just really sorry if that's your experience as well. It sucks. We've kind of started decorating a little bit more though. I've been putting some things on the porches. I'm going back to the Sims because it's a more pleasant conversation. So let's just move on. But I've been putting like a bike outside, a little gnome, some cute flowers. I put the Grim Reaper gnome outside of the darker colored house. I put a lot of the backyard stuff pack on the more rainbow colored one, and we've got like some little planters and stuff. On the left side house, and I'm really sorry to bring this up, I did use the Star Wars pack because it's got these planters. I kind of forget about these, but they're a little bit more modern and they're really pretty. They have like these dark colors and mostly just greens because I didn't want to use a lot of bright flowers on that house. I put like some dark purple ones in the front yard, but I didn't want to have a lot of bright colors, so I was trying to make it very starkly different from the other one. So I loved how those planters looked. It does mean that it has the Star Wars pack and not a lot of people have that pack, but if you do, well, there you go. New planters. There's like two things from that pack that I think are good. The flooring for patios and then those planters. The rest of it is not that useful for interiors of homes or for building at all. It's really good if you're trying to make a Star Wars build, but even then you don't have like that much to do a full build out of. And the gameplay is kind of weird because it's kind of repetitive and you just go and like talk to this person. Okay, talk to this person. Okay, talk to that person now. Back and forth, back and forth. And this is the fun part because we're finally starting the interior. So I'm starting to figure out the color scheme of in here. I knew I wanted to use a lot of dark colors. Looking at this, I'm like, oh gosh, trust the process again. And I decided to use the Home Chef Hustle cabinets and the wallpaper set. I know I use Home Chef Hustle like all the time in pretty much every single build, but it's just my favorite tile in the whole game. We need more tile backsplash type stuff. I think I used to be this way about the Parenthood tile, and now we have this one, so I use this one instead. But that just goes to show that we need more tile like that. But I use that kitchen set because it looks so good in here. We've got kind of a cool like black and blue and like dark brown color scheme in the tile, and I tried to use that for everything else. I was using like the rug from the Paranormal stuff pack, the plans from Paranormal, honestly a lot of Paranormal in here just because it works so well. But I was trying to draw out like the purples and the dark blues basically in here, so it's not all black inside, it's just a lot of dark colors inside. And this is the kind of thing that like I mentioned earlier, I really don't do very often. So it was actually really fun for me to try and figure out this color scheme and like put all these things together. The curtains that I'm using in here are from the Modern Luxe kit, and I've been using those curtains a lot recently. They're really good. We don't have that many curtains that are like, I guess, modular in that way. We have a couple and they're mostly just from kits, but I like these because they're quite formal. It's very dramatic with the drapery and stuff. The other ones are from the Desert Luxe kit. Funny that they're both Luxe, but the Desert Luxe kit ones are a little bit more modern, I guess, and they're quite sheer. They're very straight. I think these in particular work a little bit better in a house like this. I'm almost sorry in advance because I've also been using the paranormal stuff pack so much this week. You're gonna see a couple of videos of me building with the paranormal pack. You're gonna see one of me playing with the paranormal pack, doing like a rags to riches kind of thing. It's Halloween. What can I say? October is just, it's very exciting to me. Okay, and here's the fun part. This wallpaper is from the Cozy Bistro kit, which is not something that I use very often for houses, but it's got this really nice like paneling at the bottom, a gold accent, and then some pretty like swirly wallpaper almost. And I thought that was just so perfect. So I switched the curtains to be black because it would have a gold curtain rod. And then I tried to add in a lot of gold accents with like golden lamps, golden lighting, maybe like gold vases on plants, and I thought the gold with the black looked so good in here. I also used a little bit of Crystal Creations. I don't know if you hate this, so I'm gonna apologize in advance, but the table underneath the TV is from Crystal Creations, and I used it in that sort of bluish color. There's two, there's one that's a little bit more teal, one that's a little bit more blue, and they both match the rug, so I was kind of going back and forth between which one I wanted to try, but I never do that, and I thought it was kind of a fun change from all of the black inside of the house, and then I put it next to the black bookcase, so hopefully it looks okay to you. It's different for me. I don't normally do it like this. So I was a little bit unsure, but I ended up liking it a lot. I've also got a little gold side table next to the couch, and there's like a little teapot tea set as well that kind of has some gold accents, so I put that there too. There's a lot of gold in this game, and a lot of it is like a nice shade of gold now. Back in the day, it used to be kind of horrible. We used to only have like these really vibrant, like nightmarish yellow golds, but now they're like more reasonable golds, I would say. So things have improved a lot in that department. As you can see, I've used it like everywhere. I also put a fireplace behind the couch over here because I wanted to use that golden mirror, and it's so high up that like you have to put a fireplace underneath it because otherwise it's too high. It doesn't match anything. And I put the vintage glamour fireplace below it. And as you can see, I've been using so many packs in this build. I sit here talking and I'm like, yeah, I use this pack and this pack and this pack, and suddenly it's like a 40 pack build or something ridiculous. I think when I put it on the gallery, it was 4 pages of packs when I was like scrolling through them all because it used like all of the kits. I mean, this was embarrassing for me. It's like when you see that and you look at how many packs there are and also how much money all of those packs would cost, it's shocking, which is why I apologize. I know a lot of the comments are like, Kayla, we like it when you use loads of packs. It's fun to see them. But also I know that the build is like basically unusable. You can't download it and use it. And that's fine. Like you don't have to be able to download every build. Like there's value in just watching the speed build. Like that's how I feel about it. I'm not gonna play in this house. I just like to look at it. But it still feels ridiculous when I use that many packs. So I always say sorry for it. It took me the longest, I think, to do the interior of this like living room space in the black house. The other one went a lot quicker with the main interior. And I think that's just because once we got this one done, we were like more in the flow of it, right? Like it was easier to furnish the rest because we had done this one and kind of figured out the vibes for it. And then same thing, once you figure out the first room, I think the other rooms kind of fall into place a little bit more. So once I had done this, it was way easier to do like the nursery and the bathrooms and stuff because we kind of had a vibe already established. I did cut out the bathrooms from this speed build. I tend to cut out things that I deem like less important, like the bathrooms and hallways and stuff. Bathrooms are fun, but I oftentimes decorate the bathrooms the same in each build. And also, if it takes me a long time to do this little 3x2 room and it's already like a 40-minute video, it's probably good for us to just tone it down, you know, cut that part out, save room for other things that are a bit more interesting. So I did cut out the bathrooms, but don't worry, we'll do a tour at the end and I'll show you all the bathrooms and kind of walk you through the whole house and show you everything up close because it can be kind of hard to follow when it's speeding around like this. The next room that we're doing is the nursery, and I used these beautiful purple colors in the nursery and I was so excited about this. I will say I was kind of surprised that there isn't like a pastel purple on the crib because there's a pretty pastel purple on the bookshelf and some pretty pastel purples on like the changing table, but there's no pastel one on the crib. It has to have a black exterior to it. So I was a little bit sad about that. I don't know why they do that with the matches. Like they make these random swatches and they don't all match each other. There's also a really nice green swatch on some of the stuff from this kit, but not all of it. And that bothers me too. It's like a beautiful sage green color and it's not on everything for some reason. I know they're trying to make a bunch of swatches and like have them all match each other and stuff, but like, come on. The best ones, the pretty purple and the sage green, like we need solid color variants of those. They're so nice. I did struggle a lot with the layout of this room because I wanted to have a dresser, but like nothing was fitting how I wanted it to. I was trying to use that like the stack of trunks basically, but I didn't like the colors. I thought it was like a little bit too vibrant. I ended up just going for the one like the clothing rack that comes in the kit. I think in the end we used almost everything from the kit in this room. I didn't use the curtains anywhere because the curtains didn't fit on the 3-wide window, so I was like, I just can't use them. But I used pretty much everything else, I think. We put the books and the toys and the rocking chair and everything, so we've got this really cute little nursery. I also matched it with a couple of things from vampires because there's like that bat stuffed animal, so I put that in there, and there's like some vampire pictures that I put next to the bed. It's so funny watching this speed build back because we're now 19 minutes into a 31-minute build, and we haven't even started the other house yet. It just goes to show you how much longer it took me to furnish this one. I think partially because it was the first one, I wasn't in the zone yet, and also because it's a little bit more out of my comfort zone. It took me a little bit longer to figure out, but we're doing the last room of this house now. We're trying to make the primary bedroom, and I struggled with this. I'm gonna be honest, we went back and forth so much on this one. There was a lot of controversy in my Twitch chat about the like canopy I was trying to put around the bed. Some people loved it, some people hated it. I really wanted to try. I was very excited about it because I haven't really used that yet. That came out in Lovestruck, but for a while it was like bugged, or at least it was tagged improperly. So if you were looking at Lovestruck, it wouldn't come up. Like you could filter by Lovestruck and it wouldn't be there in your build catalog. You had to like do some funky things to get it to show up. They finally fixed the tagging on it, so now it shows up properly. There were a couple things that were glitched like that. It was like the canopies, there was this little like golden bird statue, and I think also the early purchase content plushie, that Herbert Hart plushie, he was also bugged. But because they weren't showing up, and also because I think the texture on those canopies is a little bit weird, I hadn't really used them yet, but I thought that this house was kind of a cool opportunity to try. Anyway, this color scheme is making me think about the new Life and Death expansion pack. I don't know how many of you have seen the trailer. Hopefully you have. It was a couple of days ago, but for me it was yesterday. I wanted to point out that I discovered something that was kind of weird to me about how they're promoting the pack, I guess, because they post the trailer, they post a blog post, they post like the pre-order page on the website, and then they also have all the features described inside of the EA app, like where you purchase it in the EA app. And the features are different in there, not like completely different, but the wording is different. And so they listed a couple of extra things inside of the EA app that I didn't mention in my video because I didn't know that it was gonna have a different description. Like I sort of expected the feature list from the app to be the same as what's on the pre-order page on the website because they're both the store pages. So it should be the same, but there's way more on the EA app. It was talking about like some scary mother ghost and like things that they hadn't mentioned at all. They explained more about like the ghost system and how the ghosts are gonna be able to level up better. Cause I was wondering if the ghosts would have like a proper development system, kind of like how vampires and like famous people have in The Sims. And it sounds like they will, but they only described that on the EA app. They didn't talk about it in the blog post. So if you haven't read it yet, I would suggest that you go back through and read that. I'm sure that people have posted it on like blogs and stuff by now, but go through and look at that stuff. It's not super long, but there are a few more things. You can just search like Life and Death on the EA app and read through it, because I was getting really excited reading all of that yesterday. And I guess now I've learned something, because I don't normally look at the pre-order pages ever in the EA app. I honestly try to avoid the EA app when possible, so I just hadn't seen. I'm curious to know your thoughts now that it's been a couple of days since the trailer came out. I'm curious to hear what you're all thinking about the pack now that it's kind of digested a little bit more, because I am still so excited. I'm like so intrigued by this pack. I can't wait to see more about it. I still cannot get over the term Grim Turn that they were using in the trailer as like one of the early levels of the new Grim Reaper career. And also the ghost woohoo. I don't know if you saw, but it sounds like the ghosts are going to be able to woohoo with each other like basically anywhere. It's kind of similar to how vampires can woohoo in their bat form just anywhere. So if you've got two vampires, they turn into bats, they can just woohoo in the sky, like right there. It seems like the ghosts are gonna be able to do that as well, but like in a chair, in the fridge, like they can just haunt anything together and woohoo in it. And that is so silly and so exciting to me. But anyway, we finished the left side house, we've stopped the darker colors, and now we're switching to a completely opposite vibe in the more pretty and pastel house. Not more pretty, they're both pretty, but this one is pastel. It's pretty pastel. They're both pretty. With this one, I used the same kitchen set, but I used it in like that pretty light green color instead. And the whole house kind of has like a green, pink, and yellow color scheme going on. Dream Home Decorator kind of carried here with this. I was using it all over the place. And I also used that really pretty painted piano from Growing Together. There's quite a few painted swatches on that piano, and I actually don't use it very often. I think because they're just kind of hard to fit in most builds because the colors are so specific. It like really dictates the theme of a room if you use it. But in this case, it's got the green, it's got the blue, it's got the pink cherry blossom. So I thought it kind of worked perfectly for this house. So as a reminder, this is the house that belongs to the artist sim. So she got a whole fine arts degree from Brightchester, and she's always had kind of a colorful, more like rainbow vibe, I guess. I showed you the sims in the beginning. She's the one that had kind of the mermaid hair with the blue and the pink. And the other sim got the villainy degree, which I honestly had kind of forgotten even existed. But there is a villainy degree, and it helps with like the criminal career and stuff. It had my sim studying like mischief and fitness and logic and all those sorts of things, but I had never played through that career. It's fun because you kind of know what you're getting into with a fine arts degree. Like it's kind of obvious you're gonna paint. She was playing instruments, but with villainy, that's like a little bit more of a wild card. And then it sounds very funny to be like, oh yeah, my sim's got a villainy degree. I think this living room posed a sort of uniquely different challenge because I don't think that multiple colors and multiple patterns being mixed is really my strong suit. I've always felt that way about myself. So I was kind of trying to do some sort of funky colors and stuff in here, and I wasn't sure if it was really working when I was putting all these things in. It does come together in the end, but it took me some time to get there with it, I think. I used a couple fun things in here. Again, a lot of paranormal stuff, but opposite color scheme. This is like the more pastel section from paranormal stuff. I also used those Growing Together curtains. They're massive and this beautiful pastel yellow color, so I put those in there. The scalloped rug is from Lovestruck, and we've got kind of a cute TV set up in front of this couch area. I always use that massive TV. It might be a little bit excessive, but if my Sims have enough money for it, I really like having it because it's so good quality. I tried to put it here, it didn't really work, so I replaced it with the frame TV. And I guess in this case, the frame TV probably makes more sense just because it's like an artist's house, so it's fun to have the painting there instead. I also put in radiators, and that's one of those things that I don't think about very often either. There's 2 packs that come with radiators. Vampires has a couple, and then For Rent has loads of them. But For Rent has some fun like pastel radiators, and that's what I wanted to use here. I put like a minty colored one next to the piano, and I don't think I've ever used the pastel colored ones before in a build. I kind of forget they exist. This is like my Florida showing because I'm from Florida and we don't have radiators here. Like I've never lived in a house that has one. It's just not something that I think about very often. I put ceiling fans in my builds a lot, and like I'm thinking about AC. I'm not really thinking about like radiators and heat for the house. The radiators are kind of cool too because you can hook them up with the thermostat. I think it's a setting on the radiator. You like click on it and then say like sync to thermostat, and then it will turn on when your Sim's heat turns on with a thermostat from Seasons. They can, I'm pretty sure, potentially catch fire, but that is a sacrifice that I am willing to make. I'll take it. I like when my Sims houses catch fire. I think it's fun. And it has a lot more colors than I expected. It comes in like any pastel you could think of. I think it had like pink and stuff. For Rent has some fun pastels in that pack. That makes me wonder what the swatches are gonna be like from the new Life and Death pack, because I feel like it's probably not gonna be as pastel, right? It almost feels very Storybook Nursery vibes, doesn't it, from the trailer? But we've only seen one trailer, so we don't actually know yet. Okay, and one more thing. I tried to use a different tile. I don't know if you saw just then, but I was trying to not use the tile backsplash that comes from Home Chef Hustle. I was looking at the like tile decals from Lovestruck. I really like those tile decals, but they only work in very specific circumstances because here in this house, there's a window in the kitchen, and you can't use the tile decals there because it doesn't go like in between the window. It would cover the window. The wallpaper goes behind it, so it fills the whole wall. If we had the decals on like a windowless wall or in like a certain space where it wouldn't block anything, then it's fine. But they don't work in every situation, which is why I find them kind of hard to use. I've had that problem in like bathrooms and stuff too, because you want to use those, but then like the window doesn't fill the full tile, so there's space on either side that it doesn't have the decal in, or like the door doesn't fit right. So it's just hard to fit them sometimes. The colors are so good though. though. Like, they're so pretty. Maybe not for this, because they're a little bit more vibrant. They aren't so pastel. I should probably try and do a house build inspired by them again. I did a bunch like that when Love Struck first came out, but it's been a few months. We can bring it back. We can do it again. We are almost done with this build now. We're finally moving on to the bedroom, and we're decorating this one. I used the pretty yellow curtains again, and I've got the paranormal stuff wallpaper. Paranormal stuff is a big theme of this build, and I had a hard time with this room. I think partially because it's so long and skinny. It's not like my favorite preferred shape for a bedroom, but also because I, again, don't think I'm that good at mixing and matching patterns. I did manage to fit a bed and a desk and also a dresser in here. I really wanted to have a desk because I think it's very useful to have a computer in every house that I play in. I don't like to play The Sims without access to a computer just because you need it so bad. And I decided to use the nifty knitting desk because it's kind of fun and colorful, and I thought it kind of worked. Plus, it's a little bit crafty. So like, this Sim has a whole art studio, but it makes sense that her craft stuff would kind of spill out into other places in her home. And the art studio is more painting focused, and this desk is kind of like knitting focused. So it worked in here, I thought. Watching this back, I'm like stressed by the colors. I think this room is my least favorite out of every part of both of these houses. I'm not super thrilled by this, but that happens. Like, you're gonna have one part that you're a little bit iffy on with any build, right? I did use a couple things from Pastel Pop too. The Pastel Pop kit has those really cool, like, chunky shelves, and I don't use those very often either because I find them kind of hard to fit in some places sometimes, but I thought it worked really well in here, so I put that on the wall next to the bed. I think that's where I wonder if I made a poor choice though, because we've got like the nice rounded edges on that. There's like the circle shaped nightstands. We've got like the round ottoman, and then I have this really harsh square rectangle on the desk. And I don't know if that's off. Like, I don't know if that's weird. I also put this rug from high school years that's normally, I think, a 2x2 square, but I sized it up and I put it in there. And I never use that one because it's kind of a weird size, but my chat was like, oh, just size it up, it's fine. And so I did, but the tassels are now like this long, probably, in real life, and I think that might be a little bit weird. But maybe we can just avoid it and like not think about it too much and it's fine. It's cute still, I just wonder if the tassels are a bit too far. We are finally on the last room of the whole house. This is the art studio, and I've got a big mix in here of the artist studio kit and also Nifty Knitting again, because Nifty Knitting has a couple of like fun art clutter items. There's like carts and wall decor, and then I used all of the pastel yellow swatches from the new art studio kit, and I have been having so much fun with this kit. I just love this stuff. I love the paintbrushes, love the new easel. I think I especially love the new woodworking table because I never use those because I don't like the base game one very much, but this one looks like a normal table, but you can also use it to woodwork on. So I've been putting that in so many builds recently, especially this house, because this house was kind of inspired by it. But I swear after this video, I don't have any more like dedicated kit videos. This one's not so much dedicated kit video. It's a light kit video. But I think with that, we're kind of wrapping up the speed build now. I didn't include the footage of me decorating the backyard of the White House because I deleted it by accident. So we don't have that anymore, but that's fine because we're gonna go into the game and do a full tour so I can show you that way instead. So as a reminder, we built this on that 40 by 20 lot in San Sequoia. And on the gallery, it's called the Double Trouble Duplex. It's not actually quite a duplex, but we can just pretend that it is for the sake of the video. And this is what it looks like finished. In the speed build, I was building it backwards on purpose because the lighting is a little bit better from this direction, but technically this is the front of the lot. I think I'll start with the left side and kind of go from there. So in the front yard, we've got our own little car. We've got a couple of plants in the front. I put the death flower in a little potted plant right here. We've got the Grim Reaper as a gnome. On the front porch, we have some wind chimes, a chess table, and also those Star Wars pack planters. And then when you come inside of the house, there's a very small little entryway right here, and you can access the first bathroom from that entryway. I used the Realm of Magic wallpaper. Lots of black and gold accents inside of this room. And when you come further out, this is kind of the living space overview. So we've got the kitchen right here. I am obsessed with this color scheme. I think it looks so cool. We've also got a small little dining table and then this big living room. And I also used the like infant play mat from the nursery kit. I thought the green and gold worked really well because it kind of matched. I mean, it's not quite the same green as the rug, but it has similar vibes. And then the baby can hang out in here with everybody. I tried to put some clutter on the different bookcases in places. We've got this cool gallery wall, the fireplace over here. A bit further down, we have kind of like a cabinet of storage. There's some pet bowls right here and this kind of cool blue mirror. I haven't used it in that swatch yet. And then to the right, we have the nursery. This one is kind of chaotic, but it's it's goth baby. That's what I was going for. And then over here, we have the primary bedroom. So we have a few different gold accents in here. They've got their closet that I was telling you about, and they also have an ensuite bathroom, and it's got space for the cat's litter box in here. When you come out the back door, there's like a little patio space. We've got a grill and a dining table. There's some lounge chairs and also a huge pool that's covered in fairy lights. And they've got some pretty planter boxes full of flowers right here so you can garden. Around the way back of the house, I just hid a couple of things like a picnic table and a swing set. I was trying to take up space back there. And then kind of the last thing is that I gave each of them their own little like, almost like storage space. It's kind of like to make up for there not being a garage. I put a couple bikes, there's a garden hose and like a trash can in there. Obviously we have an infant, not a child, and this is a child-sized bike, but we're just prepping for the future, okay? And that's the whole darker colored house. So moving on to the right for the lighter colored house, this is kind of a front overview of it. They've got a pretty yellow bike. We've got some more gnomes and little flower decor. I love this porch with the rocking chair and the wind chimes and the flowers. I used to use this all the time. It's from Backyard Stuff, but I keep forgetting it exists. It's got some nice like plain swatches too, but I loved the pink. The layout of this house is the same. It's just kind of flipped and then obviously different colors. But there's a small entryway right here. I used the ladder thing from the art studio kit too. So there's like 2 different ladder decors on either side of this wall. This one's yellow though, and they've got kind of a cute egg chair. This house also has a laundry room here instead of a second bathroom. And when you come further in, we've got a nice big dining table. There's a beautiful pink and green and yellow kitchen. Here's kind of the living room space laid out like this. I put some little cat toys and like a record player here. We also have the piano and some yarn for knitting. There's just some bookshelves and some cat stuff along this wall. I use the same mirror, but I put like the one that has the different Polaroid pictures inside of it. To the right, we have the primary bedroom, which is not as bad as I was making it out to be. I'm just still a bit unsure of this room. And then we have a closet here too, but they put their litter box inside of this closet. There's also an ensuite bathroom for this house. I put the blue radiator in here too. I kind of like the color scheme in this room. And then last, we have the little art studio full of paint and different like accent colors and stuff. From the backyard of this house, it's very similar with like the little patio outside. They also have some plants and like a little dining table. This is from the Riviera Retreat kit, so it's got like pretty pink scallops on it. They have a grill too. But then a bit further down, there's like a stone walkway over to a hot tub section with like some lounge chairs. So they both have some sort of water in their house. One's got a pool, one's got a hot tub. And on the gallery, I posted this as just a regular house. It's not a rental residential. I did that because when you make them into rental residentials, or sorry, residential rentals, if you don't have for rent, you can't download it. So if you wanted to play with it as 2 separate units, you would just have to assign them separately, which is kind of annoying. But you could also play in here like the old way. And probably how I would play here is to continue using both Sims, but just like lock some doors so I could play with them both at the same time still and have one live here and one live here and just keep going with them all in one household. But that is the finished product. So I'm gonna wrap this video up here because it's been long enough already. Thank you for watching. Have the best rest of your day, and I'm gonna catch you all tomorrow. Okay, bye everybody. There's something about that cute yellow little car in the front that I think is so fun. I don't know what it is, but I love the bright yellow next to the dark colored house.